Hey, welcome tonight. We're back with part 2 of getting to know the candidate with Clyde Green right here on the 419 Grind Network. Once again, we have Mr. J.R. Majewski here. He's running for the District 9 Congress seat. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think he'll be facing Marcy Capture.
Unless she retires.
Unless she retires.
Yeah.
So
keep me on this show. She might get scared.
She might get scared. Well, I'm trying to help you out. My buddy from high school. We went to high school together. I won't say two different backgrounds. We had kind of different backgrounds. Just
the heavyweights from Woodward, 1998.
98.
Heavier now than we were then, but
yeah. So how you been since last week?
Man.
How did
really
that work out for you?
Good, man. Worked out real good. A lot of people reached out to me through the website. A lot of people were curious, man. Some people followed me on Facebook, asked me how I knew you, and it brought a lot of conversation. Yeah. There was actually, I don't remember the young lady's name off the top of my head, but she reached out to me and said that, she saw me on the show and she really likes what you guys are doing to the for the community and the message you guys put out, and she saw and heard some value in what we talked about. So
I definitely appreciate that.
If you can like me, she can like me.
Well, So I don't know. We got cut off last time. We got to a deep conversation, so I'm gonna kind of go to where we left off at, and that was more getting into what's going on. So now you're running for this District 9 Congress seat. For a lot of people out there who don't understand politics or whatnot, what power comes with this seat? Like what can you do?
Well, the job of the representative for the district is to carry the voice of the people.
Okay.
Is to represent their constituents in Washington, D.C. Right. And like we've talked about many times, I think that's been lost in translation. I think that you see politicians today carrying their own message to D.C., worrying more about their own image, their own persona, and becoming what I look at as ideologists, right? They're pushing what's good for them, not what's good for their district. So the job of the House of Representative Congressmen is to not only represent their people, but and bring their concerns to Washington, but also work towards passing legislation that benefits their community with the understanding that, a lot of legislation that's passed has a benefit to the country.
Okay, so
but understanding not all legislation is specific to, let's say, Ohio District 9, but if it is, or if there's a potential, that district congressman needs to be, very, very involved.
Okay, so let me so it's not so much you fighting for speed bumps,
correct,
but more legislation, state laws and state values.
If there's a federal rationale for funding for those speed bumps, or if they want to make a federal law requiring speed bumps, then I would have to represent this district's opinion on whether or not they think speed bumps should be funded by the government, the federal government, your taxpayer money, or whether or not they think that it should be a law that the federal government dabbles in, which I understand what you're saying, but it was actually a good example because it gives you opportunity to see the difference.
They don't know the levels of Congress and representation and state and all that. So you're not just fighting for speed bumps. You're fighting for education laws and things like that, and jobs and things, welfare, things that can better our community.
Grant money,
all that. Okay, yeah. So that's a lot of power that comes with that seat.
It is. It's the power of everybody in the district, right? Yeah. So it's for the people, by the people. That's why our government was created the way it was. That's why congressmen and women in the House run every 2 years, and senators run every 6 years. Okay. It's because the intent of our founding fathers was to make sure that the representatives were representing. So when you come up on a 2-year cycle, you essentially have to be in your district to stay relevant, to make sure you're going to get votes. So you're really campaigning your entire time in office. You have to be. You have to be winning the trust of the people in the district, and not being on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, arguing and
creating fuss, huh?
Right.
Okay. Now, give me an example of how you plan on winning the people's trust, or just getting out to the people so they can know who you are.
Look, I want to shake everybody's hand. I want to hold everybody's baby. I want to pet everybody's dog as long as they don't bite. How many times you ask, does the dog bite? And they say no. Right.
Got teeth, don't it?
Yeah, it bites, right? I want to be everywhere and anywhere. Right. So, I've put it out on social media, despite my travels, despite the fact that I'm, working right now as a professional in the nuclear industry. I'm taking my personal time and I'm dedicating it to campaigning. So if there's a business out there, if there's a leader out there, you have like a Kiwanis club, if you have, you get together with your buddies, you play spades on Friday night or whatever, I'll come speak at your group. I'll come get to know you. That's the first plan of attack, right? Is just to make myself available. Now, when I get into Congress, my first campaign commitment is that I'll hold a town hall in every county in the district in which I represent every quarter.
Okay.
Right? So you'll see congressmen and women now, they'll hold town halls, but they only sell a certain amount of tickets. Keyword, sell tickets.
Right.
I'm gonna do it free, right? I'm gonna do it for free. I'll use my own money and I'll do it for free.
Right.
And I'll make it available to the maximum capacity. I won't just do it at some donor's house or club or bingo hall or library, whatever. I'm gonna do it where it's readily available, readily accessible to everybody. I'm not scared to go to, Wilson Park and have a little sit down and talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we have.
Scott High School field house.
I told you I'd go to Scott. I mean, people generally like me. I mean, I'm not an unlikable person. The one thing that's missing is just having the discourse. It's okay to disagree on things, but
absolutely.
At the end of the day, we're Americans, we're humans, and I'm willing to listen to everybody's opinion, and I'm not going to call anyone names because they have a differing opinion of me.
And that's the purpose of us talking here. Like, it's not a debate; it's definitely just conversation.
Right.
Just conversation with me and a high school friend. And if we were to venture out and anybody else come on, it would just be conversation. I'm not bringing you on a debate with you or argue about the issues. I do want to know certain plans and expectations, but it's just conversation. So, some of the topics we got right now: technology, social media. That's a big thing right now on all platforms, political, urban, just social, everybody.
Yeah, it's inundated our lives, right?
Right.
And it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword.
Right.
On one side, it was good for us coming up with MySpace,
right,
because you could find people that you hadn't seen in years.
It was cool.
Right. It was nice. In the single days, you could also, hit on the lady or girl that you liked in high school that you hadn't seen, right? But maybe you would have found, some kids you had in Texas or something. I'm just kidding.
Nah. Please don't play like
Inside
that.
joke.
I get it, though.
Yeah. So, hey, maybe I would have.
Anyway, maybe he would have. No. Somebody would have.
Right. But it turned into something different, and what it's done. And I want to say that I don't believe for a second that the creators of MySpace or Facebook or Google or Amazon had, nefarious ideologies when they put these platforms together. They were looking to be entrepreneurs and to make a product that would sell and make them wealthy. That's the American dream.
And that's social fame sells, right?
But it's really created a unique dynamic in our society. Take, for example, we talked about this before, when you were in high school, you were exposed to maybe 100 to 200 people maximum.
Right.
And so your social experience was based on who you knew in school, or who you lived around, or who you were friends with. And you were molded based on those experiences.
Yeah.
Now, children are being exposed to millions of people.
Man.
So, like, for example, if I wore a pair of buddies to school, you'd make fun of me because I didn't have.
I would.
You
probably
have, and I just don't remember. I don't want to remember crying or something, but.
Don't do me like that.
Yeah, but now kids are exposed to, if they post an Instagram photo and someone says that they're ugly or something like that, kids nowadays they react to that the same way we did when we were. I mean. When my mom and dad used to go to Aldi's, I used to hide in the back seat. I mean, don't tell me you didn't.
I don't know about hiding.
But you just felt embarrassed.
I didn't tell nobody we went there.
Yeah, right.
We went to the grocery store.
My dad used to make me go there.
Right, yeah.
Because he wanted me to understand, look, you want these shoes, I got to go to Aldi's.
Right, and pay 2 cents for this
I didn't get the shoes either, but, I still had to go to Aldi's, you know what I mean?
It's an experience, I get it.
Right, but now, it's magnified. And I think that social media companies need to be contributing back to some of the fallout from their impact on society. And that's not, again, it's not necessarily their fault, but when things happen, we have to address it, or we watch the demise of social media's impact on on our everyday lives. And as adults, right, if you cry because somebody called you fat on Instagram, like I do sometimes,
right.
Too bad, right? You're an
Right,
adult. But when it starts impacting our kids,
Yeah.
that's a different story. You know,
And the kids are the ones really impacted. Like, like I said with my children, I don't have a filter because anything I try to filter, they can go online and pretty much search.
Yeah.
And even if it's a lock or a parental lock on it, they know how to get around that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
you lose credibility if you don't. Yeah. If you're not on message, right? If you're not saying the same thing that they see or hear on Facebook or Google or wherever, you lose some credibility as their father because they don't believe you. And I get it. I don't have kids.
Right.
Unfortunately, that wasn't God's plan for me and my wife. But that doesn't mean that I can't look out for yours.
right.
You know.
And
I want little Harold's, around, or little Clyde's around my nephews. You know, and my nieces.
because you got some cool little nephews too, for sure. So how do we take the social media, in your case, how do we turn it around and make it a positive for you and what you're trying to do?
Well, spread the message. Right. If you like what I'm saying, if you like what you're hearing, if you want to give me a shot, follow my Facebook page,
Right.
go to my website, look at it, watch the videos that I've made. The best thing is word of mouth,
right.
but don't do it as a favor. Do it because you really believe, because that means more.
Right.
I really want people to understand what I bring to the table, and I want to change what people believe and what people think of when they hear the word Republican.
Right. And as far as that, let's get into that, because that's a lot of people don't understand the core values or the core traditions or what a Republican stands on, and a lot of times, I know it's God, family. You know what I'm saying? So those are a lot of core values that us as Black people stand on as well. Mm-hmm. What are some other core traditions?
Well, in the Republican Party values, and as well as the Democratic values, they're malleable. They've transitioned over the years.
Absolutely.
As society's changed. But generally speaking, Republicans believe in our amendment rights, our unalienable rights, right? So our right to free speech, our right to own guns, our right to commerce. And they also believe in a capitalistic society, right? And giving you the opportunity to achieve the American dream, right? Being able to open your own business, being able to send your kids to school where you want your kids to go to school. And there's also, the nuclear family, like you mentioned, right? It's God, family, country in that order. And, I think that there's been an erosion of the most important part, which is God. And you knew me as a kid. I didn't go to the Catholic school. My parents both, were forced to go to church as children, and they didn't want to enforce that on me. And because of that, I didn't have necessarily a church experience as a kid. I mean, I did, but not to the big extent that some of my friends did.
I had a church experience,
but I did by way of knowing you and others that went to church, because I would go to church with my friends because I was curious. But it wasn't a mandate. I wasn't getting woken up on Sunday mornings like my cousins and friends were.
Me.
Right.
Yeah, I had to walk to church.
Well, I mean, my cousins did too, right? They my parents and siblings had different standards for their kids. But I, as an adult, I've learned, and I've always believed in God, don't get me wrong. I just wasn't involved actively in the church. And, I think that's one of the things that's missing, because when you look at how our country was established, it was rooted in faith. And our laws, our amendments, our Constitution, our Declaration, it's all rooted in God. And they were, these things were built for a God-fearing and God-loving society. And we've removed God from so many different areas of our life. And they weren't necessarily oppressive in the forms that they stood, but they were assumed to be oppressive. I mean, no one found harm in, God being in the school system when we were kids. Now it's a problem. But I think it's become magnified to a point where it's so general that it doesn't make any sense. And I think God is missing in our lives in so many different ways. And Republicans are, historically, I don't know a Republican that would say that they're not a Catholic, Christian, Muslim. They have some faith. And like I said, I've learned more and become more involved as an adult And I don't know where I would be today without having faith.
Right. It's a heavy and it's a tricky situation. But like you say, even with the country being built on those values, it was a faith value. Even the slaves had faith that God was going to bring them up and out one day. And sure enough, it happened. Maybe not the way they expected, but it happened. So those are good. Those are good values to have.
Man is supposed to channel the message of God, and I think we failed.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're succeeding now. I mean, there's opportunities, right? We both know that.
Right.
But I think generally speaking, good Republicans like myself don't wake up every day with, the hope that another race or another class of people, in society, be it socially impoverished people, middle-class folks, wealthy folks, none of us wake up every day and wish them harm. It goes against everything you stand for, for me as a Christian, So it is powerful stuff, though, and I just want to also say that doesn't mean that just because I don't know a Republican that isn't faithful doesn't mean they don't exist, and doesn't mean that I would be judgmental towards them. Your faith is yours to have. It's none of my business. And
it's actually can be. It's not something that you have to really expose. It can be a private matter. A lot of exposure to people's faith or religion is just really for the people to let people know where they stand. But I like to keep mine on the private stance because
your relationships with God, it's your relationship.
Mine lines up a lot different than a lot of people think, and I'm not trying to force nothing I believe on nobody else because it's my mind.
I think that's where we've grown, especially our generation. Our relationship with God has been more personal and less communal. We don't necessarily have to be at a church with 100 people to celebrate our religion. Maybe we do it at home. Maybe our lives are so busy because we have a failing government and a failing system that makes us work constantly. So when we see Sunday, we just want to sit in the lazy boy or watch a football game or something, and church becomes daunting. And that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
And that goes into jobs, because there's certain jobs that right now, a lot of the plant jobs here are 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That 7 days a week, that's slavery almost.
It is. In its very form. I mean, in a way, and we talked a little bit about this many a times, but in a way we're all slaves, when we have a society the way ours has grown to be, which is, full of oligarchs, meaning, very, very wealthy people have an absorbent amount or a huge amount of control and influence over our lives. And, I don't know the fix to that. I don't know how we get ourselves back, but we need to, because that's true in my mind. That's true slavery in today's day and age.
It ain't just black people going through that.
No, it's everyone. But it's just it's the context of it, right?
Exactly.
It's not worse, not less. I'm not giving it a value. I'm just saying I believe it to be a fundamental form. And it all has to do with how our society's grown and where we've let it go. And really it's rooted in our government, because our government has the power to pull the reins on these businesses and some financial matters that happen in this country. And they get into the club and they don't understand that, or they don't remember what it's like to be on the other side of the fence.
Like, I know if me and you was on the production line right now, we'll be fussing and complaining.
Of course.
Wanting to be home with our kids or just not wanting to be there. We've been here 8 days a week in a row. And make this money, can't really spend it, but on the bills, so.
No vacation, right? You're working 300 days a year and you can't spend the money that you earn. Or you're spending the money that you earn because you don't earn enough to sustain your lifestyle or support your kids or support your family. It's a shame. It is.
Then they work you, and you replace it with like that. You can fall out on the line. Get him up, get him out of there.
Right.
And then
in many circumstances, that is.
And then after you sitting for a couple months, your insurance with them run out. Then you got to battle with Cobra, which is $1 million a month. That's hard. Like nobody wants to go that route, but that's
can't get unemployment because you have to talk to 5 different computers.
And then you got to verify your identity because they don't know who you are. It's just crazy, man. And
it's the complex, man. It's created unfairly for certain people, and certain people it's very easy. They they've built a lifestyle out of manipulating the system,
Right.
but they take advantage of it to the extent that it ruins it for good, hardworking Americans.
Now, how do you fight for that in the position that you're going for? How do you, like you said, first off, you said that you don't really know. So, but how do you create a plan to fight for that, or even to?
Well, and that's the whole intent of Congress and having a House of Representatives,
Right.
because collectively, all of those minds are supposed to come together with ideas that they bring back from their district and resolutions that they can, bring into law. So working with people, understanding, so one part of it is, let's just say you and I, for example, if you have concerns, which one of them you shared with me that I thought was quite unique, it's that why don't kids learn about credit in high school?
Right.
Remember when we got out of high school, we didn't know what a credit score was.
Right.
And it took us 3 or 4 years to build up enough credit to
Right.
buy a vehicle. So those ideas, let's say hypothetically, I bring that to the Congress and it's never been heard of, right? So then my responsibility would be to get other Congress members to back this idea, and then there would be a review and a build out of maybe a law or maybe a bill to be passed in through the Congress up to the President through the Senate. And if we had a resolution, then it would ultimately be approved, and then could then, hopefully force.
That would work maybe for, in that aspect, for that example, change the curriculum as far as
have an
teaching
impact
kids
on,
financial literacy in high school. Because I mean, and we jumped off the subject with that, but just saying that schooling in general, a lot of these young kids are creating their own businesses, or they're YouTubers and they're getting money, so they do need to know how to handle their finances responsibly. There's a lot of little teenagers out here getting checks from YouTube and TikTok for being viral, or whatever they want to call it.
But I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe in order to become a content maker on YouTube as a minor, you have to have an adult.
Okay.
So one would believe that the adult would be handling those finances for them.
You would believe that, but if I was in that business and my mama, and ain't nothing wrong with my mom, rest in peace, I'm just using an example, my mom was handling my funds, I would want to have the knowledge.
Sure.
So I would never even want to think that
Understood.
my mom was playing me, or anybody in that position was
But if
playing
you're
me.
making millions on YouTube, the likeliness of you actually going to school is slim to none, because you're going to be getting home tutored, right? So then you get to choose your own curriculum. So therefore, that law in particular wouldn't necessarily have to be able to apply that benefit. But the intent of what you're saying, I absolutely agree with. But the other part of it is, though, some people like myself that believe in our Constitution, I don't believe that the Department of Education belongs. I don't believe dictation of our education belongs at the federal level.
Right.
I think that should reside locally at the state. Yeah.
Because like some areas like the Midwest, we're more of a production factory area. So, and even we talked about it. I felt like when I was in high school, they was, especially at Woodward, they was preparing us for Jeep or Libby Glass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They was preparing us for that, or out the way, the Start kids was getting prepared to go to Hydromatic or
GM. Yeah,
or
exactly.
The factory life. They was you got a good education, and if you were smart enough to look beyond the regular curriculum and then be in the big program, then we knew the ones going to college and got the degrees and everything and this, that, and the third. But for a lot of us, we was really just trying to be like Homer Simpson, like the blue collar. The blue collar worker in Toledo. Right. So, and then you got the areas like I would say Idaho, maybe Montana, where they would probably
learn about agriculture. Yeah, exactly.
And farming and stuff, because that's where it is. So yeah, I get that.
But when you have a federal body that creates a mandate for curriculum, and that curriculum doesn't necessarily coincide or correlate with the commerce of the state, right? It doesn't make sense. And so what happens now is that the Department of Education puts out a mandate, and in order for a state to receive grant money or federal funding, they have to achieve whatever standards are set by the federal government. And it puts them into hard positions where they have to choose the future of their children's education, or what that education path goes towards, or the money that they could receive from federal funding. Wow. And it's a hard decision to make. And I've talked to a lot of people that are involved in the education system, and all of them are hoping that Ohio takes the lead, and they're looking at something right now at the state level called the Backpack Bill, which would give parents the sum of money that the state would predict would, that would cost them to put their child through public school. So and then the parents would have that money to use as they saw fit to send their child to whatever school that they wanted, be it public, private, and it would put the control back into the hands of the parents.
How would that work? Controlling the child's performances, would it be certain requirements, or that they would have to keep up and all that, or would that work for everybody? Everybody would be entitled for this credit and hopefully use it the right way.
I think that's one thing they're trying to figure out right now, and I haven't spent as much time looking into the bill as I would if I were running.
And I've heard about it as well, and I haven't researched it.
But I'm not running for. I just want to preface it with, and I know you know, but for the audience, I'm not running for a state position.
Right.
So learning as much as I could about that law doesn't necessarily serve me any justice, only because I know they're working on it right now.
Right.
But from what I do understand, it puts accountability back into the parents' hands.
Yeah.
Because right now, when we were kids, if we got suspended from school, or if we were truant, our parents could get in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case anymore.
Well,
it may be.
They got truant officers. I don't know the severity of.
But I'm not sure that parents are being
held accountable.
Right. And not saying this bill would do that, but let's say hypothetically you're given $25,000 for your son to go to school. If he skips school every day and his grades, he flunks out, I'm assuming if it wasn't based on performance or an effort, if he went and tried and still received an F, then there's a failure somewhere with the system, or maybe his aptitude, maybe he needs to, maybe there's a different way of taught. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. It could be alternative, maybe not. But then you wouldn't be held accountable for that loss of finance.
Okay.
Now, if they were truant and skipped every day, and that's why they failed, my assumption is that they would then go towards the parents and say, look, you're accountable for this money because your child wasn't going to school. Now, I know that gives some people some hesitance, and it would me too. Like I said, I don't have kids, but you can't always control what your children are doing, and I understand that. And I think that's why the bill hasn't been passed, because our state representatives and senators, they understand that, and I think they're trying to work through it. But that, to me, is a start.
It is a start.
It's a start to give accountability back to the parents.
Right.
Because right now, parents don't have decision-making authority like they used to have.
And that's a heavy decision to have $25,000, because you might look at your kid and say, he ain't that bright anyway.
Well, I mean, the other part of it is, though, getting to pick where your child goes to school.
Right.
I mean, when we were kids, you wanted to go to Start to play baseball, you wanted to go to Scott to play basketball, and you want to go to St. John's or St. Francis for football. So if you had a relative that lived in that district, you were looking to use their address and claim that you lived there.
Right.
Because you were looking for that athletic opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost used the relative's address to go play baseball at Start.
Yeah.
And, I
know
decided not to do it because my entire family went to Woodward, and I felt a sense of loyalty to Woodward, but don't think that it didn't cross my mind.
Right.
And my dad supported it too, because I wanted to be a baseball player.
Right.
But that shouldn't be the case.
Right.
Shouldn't be the case. But with this bill and with this type of approach to our education system, it would make some of our schools more competitive in other areas where they may not, have that competitiveness right now.
So that's heavy too. That's heavy. So let's get into this now. You're running for Marcy Capsule's seat. Now, like I said, that's some big shoes to fill. We all know. Even we talked about it.
Yeah.
How do you still embrace that challenge and keep going? How bad do you want it?
I want it terribly bad.
Right.
But at the end of the day, campaigning costs money.
Right.
And I'm very well off in my position right now. I'd be taking a significant pay cut to go work into Congress, and I'm willing to do that because I believe that what I bring to the table is beneficial to everyone in the district, all walks of life.
Right.
And I don't think Marcy has that posture with our district, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's almost as if Marcy's become there's an expiration date. I mean, she's in her 70s.
Right.
social media is becoming more and more prevalent with, within our society, within the political paradigm. And I think Marcy's reach to the community suffers just because she's not aware. And you look at her attendance rate. I mean, Marcy has the worst attendance rate than any other congressman or woman in history. Not only is she the longest serving congresswoman, she has the worst attendance too. And I think I may have said this on your last show because it's something that I looked into when as I've just been a resident of this district, when I've tried to reach out to Marcy about things. And, I don't know about you, man, but if I'm absent from the job more than the next person working with me, I would get fired. Right. And the people have to hold her accountable, but I have to prove to everyone why. And, again, one of the reasons that one of the ways I'm going to do that is being here, being readily available. I want to walk this district every day. I'm going to be in DC. There's a mandate to be in DC for certain things. I'm going to be there, but I want to be in this district. I want to be stopping by 419 to see how you guys are doing, asking if you have issues, right? But that all starts right here. It starts right here. And that's why I'm willing to go anywhere and be everywhere as much as possible because, look, I care. I mean, and at the end of the day, if I don't make it, if another Republican comes in and they put me out of they primary me, it is what it is. It's God's will, right? But I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm confident that it's not. But if it does happen, I'll take it with good stride. But this district is going to make up its mind. Do you want Marcy Kaptur, a lady that's been in office, that's served our district for 38 years, which this would be her 20th term? Or do you want a guy that's grown up in Toledo, that's faced all the odds that we all face today?
Up under Marcy Kaptur as well.
Under her, that's gotten out of the neighborhood, that's made something of themselves, chased the American dream. I didn't have rich parents, nobody gave me anything. I'm still paying for my college, I want to serve the country. And I'm living proof that you can make it out of Toledo if you make the right decisions. And
Absolutely.
And you guys are prime examples of what you're doing right now, your entrepreneurship and how you're giving back to the community. Look, I know this isn't a luxurious thing that you guys do. Money's not just coming through the ceiling here like it would be if you were doing other things. Right? But you guys are doing it for good reasons. That's the same thing that I want to do.
And that's more or less what got me, because you came to explain to me, well, Harold, what you got going on, I want to reach out to the people. I want a closer relationship to the people, because a lot of people on my side of the ball don't really understand.
Right.
Like you said, like the candidates don't come out and talk to us.
They're not brave.
Like they used to. I remember being a little boy. I remember going to church one Sunday and Mike DeWine was sitting outside our church with his car. He's in a little white, like New Yorker or something. You know what I'm saying? My mom didn't agree with his views or everything, but he sat out there and he waited to reach out to the church people just because he wanted to feel other people and get to know people. That's how the candidates are. And way back then, and they need to get back to it now instead of it just being the face or, I approve this message. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, come shake my hand and tell me how you feel and this, that, and that. Like, I appreciate you even agreeing and us agreeing to do this so people can know that, you are trying to reach the people.
And what people have to realize, too, people that are voting, the constituents, we have to stop as a society being so caustic. We can't just walk into an opportunity knowing that if we have preconceived notions, like, I'm not going to agree with this guy. I've seen his Facebook. I know what he talks about. I'm just not going to agree with him. I don't want to talk to him, right? Or I'm not going to give them the opportunity to elaborate. That's where we fail, because you can learn so much from someone. There's this phenomena called groupthink.
Right.
When everyone gets in a group, no matter where you come from, you guys start talking about an idea, it's very, very easy for that entire group to accept that idea.
Right.
And that's where the definition devil's advocate comes from.
Right.
They give an opposing belief or opposing idea, even if they don't believe it, they do it intentionally to inspire critical thinking within that group. And that's what you can get out of that entire process just by having a conversation with people that you don't agree with. Right. You'd be surprised what you can learn. It could mold your thought processes to become even better just by listening to someone with another opinion. Right. And I run towards opportunities like that. But I never do it in an argumentative. I don't argue. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. And now, if there's things I'm passionate about that you know, but they have to be extreme for me to get worked up.
Well, you got to know that. Like, look, come on, man. I know this is the right. Right. I'm not gonna argue something and you wrong and I know I'm right. But we do have difference of opinions, and we don't agree on everything. That's just people in general. So
there's a distinct difference between discourse and debate.
Right.
Okay, a distinct difference. We need to get back to discourse. Right now, we're on debate.
Okay? Everybody want to argue.
And there's a lot of people out there that believe they're internet geniuses.
Yeah.
Okay, they Google something, they read a couple paragraphs.
Right.
Our society's become, we've developed superficial aspirations for information.
And we get comfortable.
Because of big tech, right?
Yeah.
If you Google something, you read it, you take it for gospel.
Right.
Okay, that's not how life works. It may be how life works on certain platforms, but in the big scheme of things, that's not how life works.
Right, not at all.
It's not.
And Google has turned more, a lot of times the first answer on Google ain't even what you was Googling anyway. It's a link to an ad.
It's to who paid the most dollar to put, right?
Exactly.
You can change any definition you want if you pay enough.
Exactly.
You know,
right.
and that's the demise that I'm talking about.
And then you have a conversation with somebody about that, and it turns into a debate instead of a discourse
because you believe what you read.
Right.
You were led. I mean, look, when I talk to my parents and we talk about the news, the different mainstream news media outlets and some of the things that they put out, and just for example, one news media that reaches multiple areas, if they print a newspaper, let's say for Toledo, what they put on the front page may be different from what they put on the Sandusky side.
Right.
Okay. And that's all media manipulation. That's all to sell more newspapers.
Absolutely.
And our parents used to sit in front of the TV at night and watch the 6 o'clock news and take solace in the fact that they were being told the truth.
Right.
But when marketing and money and all these other things get involved, the message gets construed to fit a financial narrative.
Yeah.
And we're paying the price for that. I mean, these social media outfits are selling our information.
Yeah.
When you look up something, I mean, how many times have you had a conversation with a friend and then next thing you know, you get on Facebook and you see an ad for it?
Yes.
It's because they're paying attention.
Yeah.
And they're making money off that. It's target marketing.
And that's the only thing that matters, the green dollar.
Yeah.
You know,
at the end of the day.
And they use us as pawns with that. So
and it doesn't matter what political side of the aisle you stand on. You're a product in that system. And I don't want to be a product. Right. I don't want you to be a product.
I don't want to be a product either. So would you say that was one of the, in your endeavors and what you're doing, is that one of your goals or expectations?
Yeah.
Not to be a product?
I'm never going to be a product.
Right.
And I would hope, you know, that's why I admire what you're doing. I mean, I've always been a guy that no matter where we were in life, be it in high school or when we were growing professionally, right. I've always been a fan. I've always told you that you have no, but I mean, I have. I've always believed in you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I've always said that you have a knack for something. There's something, you just got to find it. Right. And I think you found it. And I want you to, that's what I want though. Right. I want my nephews, my nieces, your kids. I want all these people to have, it's equity and opportunity, right. Not equity and results. And right now, we want to push for a society that brings equity and results, but we're humans and we thrive off competition. Right. We have to make something that's reasonably comprehensive for us as a race, when I say race, I mean as humans, right?
Human race, right?
And I mean, until we get there, we're gonna continue this divide, and it does nothing to benefit us in the long run.
Wow.
Look, if China or any other country in the world attacked us tomorrow, I wouldn't care who you were or what you were or where you came from. I would want you standing next to me to protect this country. And that's what we need to get back to.
Yeah.
We're sovereign Americans, and right now we're so divided. It's not going to stop until we pull it back. People like us need to get engaged. Yeah. And that's why I'm doing this.
Me too, as well. So, my last topic, I named the hecklers and old heads. But how do you deal with the naysayers or the ones that say, man, you sure you're making the right decision, or you don't stand a chance, or what motivation do you have to keep you going for that?
The same motivation I had coming out of the North End.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that. You know, it's not meant for you, or, you know, I've always been a person that has thrived on challenge.
Right. I can agree to that definitely too.
There's never been I've never been given anything. In fact, I've been told, you know, I've had aspirations, and I've been told I'm intelligent enough to do things, but I didn't have the desire, you know, or they didn't see me having the desire. And it only takes telling me I can't do it or telling me no to push me towards a desire to want to. And once I want something, I'm all in, right? So again, I'll take a win humbly. And I'll take a loss just as humbly. I don't believe in my heart that I'm going to lose. I don't understand how any rational individual could put me next to Marcy Kaptur and say that she's better for this district than I am. I just don't. Given the right opportunity with me, I just don't see how that could happen.
And I can understand that, and a lot of that comes with what we said earlier, people getting comfortable. They said Marcy's been in the seat for 20 years, like, the city ain't blew up, voted back in office.
Right.
But it's a lot of behind the scenes issues that need to be addressed, or it's going to be a problem. Am I correct?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, some of the things that Marcy does are great for the community, but she also manipulates or washes out her effort by other legislation. For example, getting our farmers in the state of Ohio to produce ethanol. That's great. It keeps them employed. It keeps them productive. But then that same ethanol is what leaches into our lakes and our bodies of water, which creates this algae bloom, which poisons our residents. I mean,
and then we can't go swim in that Maumee Bay State Park.
You have to be worried about your drinking water. I mean, this is nature we're talking about. Algae hybridizes, and just like a virus, you know, how do we know that this year's algae bloom won't be toxic to a level that, you know, that toxicity won't be defeated, you know, with our water treatment systems? We don't know that. We hope that, but we don't know.
Right.
And that type of legislation needs to be addressed. I mean, Marcy, in my opinion, is doing those things because those big agriculture bodies or those big businesses are supporting her campaigns. I mean, right now, individuals in the state of Ohio or just on the federal level, they're averaging, you know, $700,000 to $1.5 million to run for their campaign. Why does it take that much money to run for office?
I don't know.
It shouldn't.
Right.
And that's another thing I'm big on. You know, a lot of people say we should have term limits. I don't believe in term limits. And I'll tell you why. It's your constitutional right to run for office.
Right.
Okay? If it was affordable, if it was reasonable to run for office from a financial standpoint, then competition would course correct. People don't beat Marcy Kaptur type candidates because they can't get enough money.
Right.
Because once these folks are in office, lobbyists fill their campaign funds with the understanding that they're going to get favorable treatment.
Right.
And they may not have to come out and tell you that, but if I give you $1,000 into your bank account and then 2 weeks from now I ask you for a favor, you're gonna be inclined to give me that favor. Right. It's human nature. Doesn't mean that there's extremely bad intent, but JR doesn't have Clyde doesn't have a bank account that they could just anonymously put this money in, right? She does, right? So, well, I mean, it's not anonymous though, so I don't want to.
Let's go this way with that because you said something about the farmers. Is there a way that the farmers can both grow ethanol and we protect our waters?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. But we need to be environmentally engaged. Right. We need to understand some of the legislation that we're pushing through. I personally think that ethanol, though, is a wasted form of energy. I mean, it's a caustic product. You know, through the growing of the corn, through its processing through our motor vehicles and our equipment. I mean, it's not like gas. It doesn't burn the same way. It causes flaws and issues with your motor vehicles, which creates a maintenance burden, right? If your components of your car fail prematurely, you're paying for that, not the farmer, not the legislation. So what I think we need to do is look at how we could subsidize our agriculture, maybe give them some tax benefit. If a big company is going to move here, for example, Jeep, they get a huge tax benefit, right? Why can't our farmers get the same thing? Why can't we give them, maybe the first $1 million they make in their products, we give it to them tax-free? That could subsidize their desire to go make ethanol. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give them a product to grow.
Right.
Right? And it could work for both, but who's going to pay for that? That's the key, right?
Right.
Marcy found someone, and other representatives found people that are willing to pay for that cause. You just need someone that's willing to get into the dirt and get into the weeds and be innovative.
Right.
And I'm willing to do that.
That's a big responsibility too.
It is, but it's not far-fetched.
Right.
You just need to think about it critically. You can't take the path of least resistance. Nothing in life that's free is of high quality.
Right.
And nothing of high quality is free, right?
Absolutely.
It's just, you have to put in the work. You have to wake up in the morning and want something. Nothing's going to be given to you. And hey, the representative's job is to do that. It's not your job to go to work every day and figure out how we're going to, fix agriculture in the state of Ohio. It's not your job. That's why you elect me. That's why you elect Marcy. And if she can't bring that to the table in a form that benefits everyone in our district, we should have a problem with that. It doesn't matter if we live in the Point Place and we have waterfront property, if we live in Port Clinton and have it, or we live in the south end of Toledo and we don't see the lake until the summertime.
Right.
That should be irrelevant. The fact is, that's a resource for our community, and we should have just as much of a say and just as much concern about it as anybody else. Absolutely. And that's not how it's being. That's not how it's being.
The people's voice is not being heard. Is that how you feel?
No, they're not being engaged. They're not being engaged. Absolutely not being engaged. I mean, the other thing that we need to be concerned about is our nuclear power plant.
Right.
I mean, Davis-Besse is extremely beneficial to this community, and I don't just say that because I work there. I'm saying that because I've lived in areas where nuclear power plants have been closed down prematurely. It has disastrous repercussions for the economy. I mean, people will move. I mean, people that own homes in this area that contribute through working at Davis-Besse or their businesses support Davis-Besse, they will leave immediately and go to another area where they can reintroduce their business to support another nuclear power plant.
Wow.
And an example, when I lived in Florida, I lived by Crystal River Power Plant. My wife and I bought a vehicle in that area. And I think it was 6 months we had to take it in for its inspection.
Right.
And in that 6 months, that power plant had been closed. Now that was like a sprawling area. It kind of reminded me of like Perrysburg,
okay.
10 years ago. When we came back, it looked like the east side of Toledo. And nothing against the east siders, but you'd be lying to yourself if you tell me that the east side hasn't experienced some blight because it's been forgotten.
Right.
I mean, it has.
Yeah.
Look how long it's taken us to build our downtown.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, Marcy wants to put thousands of wind turbines on the lake. And if that sounds great, because we think the energy is free, but it's not free. What do we do in the winter? We huddle up in our homes. Wind blows maybe, very, very seldomly. And then the other part of it is that people want to go to Cedar Point. They want to go on the Jet Express. They want to go fishing. They want to go swimming. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but have you seen a wind turbine fail?
I haven't seen it fail, but I've seen them.
Yeah, you should see one fail. And they fail, when they fail, it's catastrophic. Yeah. And you're talking about a turbine blade that's the size of a semi-truck.
Absolutely.
And they could be thrown up to 5 miles. Imagine being in your backyard, smoking a cigar or barbecuing with your family, and a wind turbine blade comes, smashes through your home. That's what's up for them. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get government money to do that. And they're promising a multi-billion-dollar wind turbine plant in Lorain where it would employ all these people. But if wind energy was so successful, we wouldn't have been trying to pass it. I mean, they've been working on this for 10 years. The wind industry, the wind energy industry is only successful because it's subsidized by the government.
Right.
It's not.
For the people.
No energy is free. Put it that way. None is free. They want you to believe it is, though.
Right.
I'm telling you, when I see these things, I learn it, and I develop an understanding for it. And there's a lot of things that happen in the energy industry that aren't good for the consumer. And as much as we hear about, Davis-Besse's and what was First Energy, now Energy Harbor, when we hear about the things with HB6 and how there was fraud and abuse down in Akron with some of their leaders, and unfortunately our politicians, that's fair and accurate. I want the FBI to get to the bottom of it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that we have great people at Davis-Besse that didn't take a dime for all that fraud. That was a group of 6 or 7 people that, that contributed to that and fattened their pockets. The people at Davis-Besse didn't benefit from that at all.
Let me see check and see how long we got here.
Yeah, we don't want to go long this time. We'll get in trouble.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes. We got about 10 minutes. Here's what I want to ask you, and I think we probably can work 10 minutes out of this.
All right.
Being that you knew into the political arena, you have all these ambitions and these goals. Like I remember being in school. I remember Mr. Bowe.
Oh yeah.
Teacher. I remember Mr. Bowe talking about becoming a teacher, and when he became a teacher, he had dreams to change the world.
Sure.
He's gonna be the greatest teacher. He's gonna change the world, and he's gonna help all the kids that's messed up, and all these ambitions. But then it just became a job. How do you keep the fire that you have now on this position? Because you got a fire for this position right now. I see it all in your face and everything. How do you keep that? If you get that position, how do you keep that fire and not so much turn into our traditional politician that, now it's just traditional. You ain't so much
through everything I'm saying.
Right.
Being available and being held accountable, right? If I have a town hall meeting and I'm out screwing around in DC and I'm shopping around these different news networks and I'm not coming here and giving you the results that you need, I want you to holler at me at this meeting. I want you to tell me. That's just one facet of it, right? But look, throughout my professional development, throughout my professional career, what I've learned is that I have a desire to help people and serve people and make people happy.
You do. I definitely can contest to that.
I lead through servancy, right? I want to help make everybody's lives better. I've already achieved what I've surpassed my ambitions to a degree, and I'm satisfied with what I've done in life. There's certain roads that I can take professionally to grow, and those are always going to be options. But even if I do decide to stay in or go back to nuclear or what have you, I'll still always have that desire to want to help people. And I can't think of a better way than helping this huge population of people in the area that I call home. And what I'm doing in my approach is another part that inspires me. Everything we've talked about today, people telling you can't beat Marcy, or people saying this or that just continues to inspire me. And look, I understand that the government is this big machine, and you can't just go hit the machine with a hammer and expect it to be fixed. In fact, you might break it. But I get that. And I've had different scenarios in life where I've faced the same challenges, right? And I kind of parallel it with joining a team, right? You can't always pick your coach. But the only way you can make a change is by joining in on the team and trying to help the team be better. Leveraging your talents to help the team achieve that common goal, which is winning, right? And I don't want to just win for JR. The way JR wins is through this district winning, because the payback would be re-election, right? And so as long as I keep that in mind and keep those values in mind, I don't think I can fail. And I'm grounding myself right now in those fundamental thoughts. I'm not just jumping out and saying, hey, I'm JR, I painted my lawn, I like Trump, vote for me, right? That's not the way to do it. I mean, that's an easy path, right? I could do that, and it's an easy path. I may not win, who knows, but I would certainly raise a lot of money, and I would certainly have an opportunity to go run it for another race, for another position, right? Or have a big business hire me or whatever. I mean, those things are possibilities, but I'm trying to do this fundamentally correct, which is, do it for the right reasons and fall back to what this position in our federal government was created for. And again, that's to serve the people, for the people, by the people. And that's, in my heart of hearts, that's what I want to do.
That's what you want to do?
Exactly, man.
That's beautiful, man. That's
I think we've opened it up a lot. Opened it up on this one a lot better than, the first one, but,
Well, it's getting to know you. Like I said, it's just conversation. I don't know which way I'm gonna go. I mean, like you said, I don't know. I'm getting to know you and seeing where you at. and how you approaching the situation. We know what's been going on for the past 38 years. Is it time for a change, or should we stick around for the new? Will you bring a change or not? You know what I'm saying? Or are you just spitting good game?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the question. But I believe in you, and that's why I'm here as your friend to support you with this platform, because I believe in you, and I believe whether I voted for you or not, or anybody, whether I voted for you or not and you won, you still would make a difference.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I believe that. I believe that you have the fire for a change. I don't know how that'll work for you if you have that fire and you get in the office and somebody try to dim it, because a lot of times that can happen. How do you plan to deal with that if you get to see if somebody try to dim your light,
In what form though?
I guess just trying to deny you something that you're trying to fight for.
I'm gonna fight for it even harder, man.
Make it go even harder.
Oh yeah, you know me.
I should have known.
You know me. I mean, look, again, no one can deny our voices if we bring it in the right forum. You know, if you channel, if you truly take this position in what it's meant for, which is channeling the voice of your constituents, you're so powerful in that movement, because you have your entire district backing you. You can't fail. There's not a voice in Congress that can do that. There are very few congressmen and women right now that can actually say that they're so in touch with their community that they know the messages. They're too busy fighting all these, special interest things right now. They're too busy worrying about who's going to fund their campaigns. They're not out, mingling with their communities. They don't understand. And another thing, like we talked about earlier, is with social media. These folks should be using social media to its furthest extent to benefit the people, not just get likes on their video, their viral videos or whatever they do. Right? A good congressman or congresswoman would put out surveys to their constituents, use the platform as a method to, for them to get in contact with you.
Right.
I mean, message Marcy Kaptur on Facebook, see if she answers. I bet she hasn't logged in.
Have you messaged her?
No, not Facebook. No.
Okay.
No. I was thinking about knocking on her door before I wouldn't do it now because I'm not. I mean,
have you
as
met
a
her?
citizen.
Have you guys met each other?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
I haven't met her as an adult, but and Marcy will never say my name. Right. She doesn't do that to her opposition. Right. Marcy runs her campaigns to give an optic that she's above any opposition. Right. I'm not worth her time. Well, so she won't say my. Now, if I
sit down for 30 years,
she may.
Does she have that arrogance?
Yeah. She always does. She's always had it. That's her strategy, because she's so comfortable with the voters in Toledo that she doesn't believe she needs to do certain things. Right? Look at her policies. I mean, the legislation's there, right? I mean, have you had any World War II veterans in your family?
No. Okay. Well, on my father's side.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
You knew that person, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a great grandfather that was in the war. Okay. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is because that's like throughout history, that's like our toughest generation, right? These folks go to war for months on end. They come back and they're reconstituted into society. There's no, there's no mental health diagnosis. There's none of these things that our troops see now. And Marcy, while she's done some great things for the World War II veterans, one of her efforts right now is to create a World War II commemorative coin that goes into circulation. So maybe it's a quarter that has a World War II, emblem on it. And that's great. But I can tell you right now, if my great-grandfather watched the north end of Toledo diminish the way it has and know that Marcy's still in office and all she could do was create a damn coin, he'd be pissed off. Right. And everybody should be mad about that.
I think my ancestors would be pissed off too.
I mean, where's our jobs? Who cares about a coin? I mean, it's great, but who really is that where your energy's going, Marcy? I mean, really?
Wow.
But that's just one example. It's just one example. And again, not to take anything away from those veterans, but being a veteran myself, if they did a Operation Enduring Freedom or something like that, or the Afghanistan war or war in Iraq, myself and a few other people who've lost friends over there would be extremely upset when our communities and our nieces and nephews and kids don't have a future because they can't get a job coming out of college, and
we got a coin.
They won't. Well, we have a coin for it, right?
Wow.
Deep stuff, man.
It's big stuff, man. It's very big stuff. How much? Where we at?
I think we're out.
We out? About Okay, well, I had a few more questions. We get into these good conversations, man. But like I said again, man, it's great having you come in again. Before we get out of here, I want to say this was Get to Know the Candidate, sponsored by the 419 Grind, the Social Butterfly, Ms. Donetta Carter herself, and Mr. Kendall Harvey. And I just want to give you a chance to have a little outro, anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here tonight.
Nope, thanks for having me. You know, I appreciate everything you guys are doing for me here at 419. I mean, I love what you guys are doing. Shared some stories earlier about me listening to the podcast when I'm supposed to be working. Hopefully my employer's not watching this, but I kind of do balance both at the same time. But I look forward to supporting your guys' cause. You know, maybe we have another episode down the line, and you know, whatever I can do to help you guys, like I said, I'm here for it. And anyone in the community that, you know, can see me contributing, I'm available.
And let the people know your social media outlets where they can find out about your campaign or what you got going on.
So Facebook is where really I'm looking to make the most impact right now. So Facebook, you can find me at J.R. Majewski for Congress.
Okay.
I have a website. It's J.R. Majewski, the number 4, Congress.com.
Okay. All right, there you guys have it. So once again, I thank you guys for joining us this week. We're working on a continuation. I can't promise we're going to be back next week, but we're working on it, so we got some things. Just stay tuned to figure out what's going on. But JR, once again, I appreciate you coming all the way down here to talk to us. Man. And I appreciate the future endeavors that we got planned. And I bid you a good night, and I bid you guys out there a good night.
I like that jacket.
I like it too.
Sharp, man.
Y'all see how I try to get
He's
together
looking
for
good.
the show.
He's looking good.
But y'all can catch me tomorrow morning, 8:30 on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. I may have a little bit to talk about from this conversation here, but check us out. You guys have a good night. We're going to get out of here. And until next time, catch me in the streets. It's Clyde Green.